Hi everyone, it is that season again. The season of changing leaves, beautiful foliage, pumpkin spice lattes, and of course for us roomies, rheumatology boards. As you probably have guessed already, today's topic is none other than board prep. If you're watching this video, the chances are you are thinking about how to prep for the exam. I made this video hoping to help you brainstorm different ways you can plan your study schedule. I took my exam in 2020, so things are still fresh in my mind, and hopefully the information I'm sharing isn't too out of date. Just a little more background on why I'm making this video. So standardized exams are not my cup of tea, to say the least. Having to sit for 8 to 9 hours in front of a computer and having to eat cold snacks in between each session and having to sign in and out during your breaks is not my idea of an ideal day. But the fact that I'm not a huge fan of standardized exams had some benefits. See, I had to prepare and strategize more meticulously than others who had no problem with taking these types of exams. When I started to plan my study schedule, I did not just open Room Secrets and started with Chapter 1. Instead, I watched and read about helpful test-taking skills from experts who have been prepping students for standardized exams for many years. And I incorporated some of their tips to organize my schedule and study plans. I will now share these tips in this video so you can also benefit from my research. Here's a disclaimer. The following recommendations are purely based on my own personal experience. I acknowledge everyone has a different learning style, and the following methods, which work well for me, may not necessarily work for you, so take everything in this video with a grain of salt. Please only take whatever advice that will help you. So without further ado, let's get started, shall we? Okay, first things first, where do you begin? Well, I think ABIM Rheumatology Certification Exam Blueprint is like our treasure map. This can be found in the ACR website, or I think also ABIM website. I have included the link in the description box below, but just FYI, this was downloaded in 2019/2020 school year, and I currently don't have access to ACR webpage, so make sure to review the most updated version. Why studying this treasure map is important is because if you see on the image of the breakdown here, you will see that questions on rheumatoid arthritis will consist of 13% of your exam. This is amazing because even if you combine all the vascularities, which is consistent of so many various diseases, they only consist of 8.5% of the exam. So having a good understanding of this roadmap will help you divide up your time wisely. Also, this goes without saying, but check the test date for your exam, as rheumatology board is offered once a year and it's on a different month and date each year. It'll be a shame if you actually miss the date to sign up. So yeah, don't miss the deadline. You don't want to wait another year to take the exam. Next, go open your Room Secrets and find the table of contents. I'm sure you all have a copy of Room Secrets. I bought my first copy, which was a 3rd edition when, actually before my fellowship began, and during my fellowship a 4th edition came out. If something like this happens, I suggest you just go ahead and get the newest copy so you can study from the most updated one. Anyhow, next to each section, put the percentage down next to the secrets table of contents. So for example, next to rheumatoid arthritis, you'll put 13%. This way, you will be able to see each time you open secrets how much each topic will make up the test without having to go back and forth between secrets and ABIM exam blueprint. Also, the table of contents and secrets are grouped by different topics. This is very nice, but you can still subgroup. Then you can pick and choose which topics to study each day. I'll give you an example. Let's say today's an infection day. You could study from chapter 38 to 44. But you could subgroup the 7 chapters in whichever way that makes sense to you that day. Excuse me. So for instance, let's say today I will review chapter 41, viral arthritis, and chapter 42, HIV syndromes, because they're all virus-induced and I want to combine all the virus-induced arthritis together. One last thing about the table of contents, I also have identified chapters that needed last-minute review due to the fact that they contained a lot of facts requiring of just pure memorization. This way I knew what I needed to review closer to the test date. So you'll see that infectious agents and the chapter 9 with hereditary congenital diseases are highlighted with orange highlighter. Next, toolbox. Okay, there are many options for study materials out there, I'm sure, but I use the following 4. Number 1, Rheum Secrets, which I think is a must for all Rheum fellows. Number 2, ACR Image Bank, which you will have access to if you join ACR. Number 3, Care Questions. And number 4, a board prep course. There are a couple of them out there with good reviews. I think UCSF and the Rheum Board Review course, but I'm sure there are others that are just as good. And I'll talk more about the prep course later in the talk. So let me break down each of these and explain how I utilize these learning tools. Okay, first, Rheum Secrets. Okay, again, this is the best tool for board prep in my opinion. It's a review book, but there's actually quite a lot of information. The book is full of details that may not necessarily be on the exam, but if you know the book cover to cover, you will be in good shape. And personally, this was my goal, to know the book from cover to cover. And I think I got pretty close prior to the exam, although a lot of information unfortunately got lost after the exam. I will say one thing I did overlook while I was using Rheum Secrets was to use the 100 board type questions at the end of the book. I literally just forgot to do these, but a friend told me these questions were very helpful, and I think there was actually a duplicate question on his exam. So yeah, that's my tip number 2. So how does one use Rheum Secrets to prep for boards? Well, broadly speaking, I think there are 2 ways of studying. Number 1, going from passive to active. Number 2, going from active to passive studying. Okay, so number 1, passive to active studying. This is a great studying method if you're an avid reader and you can retain information by just reading. This way of studying lets you just skim or read the book casually without trying to actively memorize any information. So you read the book a few times until you start to notice there are certain information you just cannot remember without active studying, and you can only focus on those parts later. So by reading casually in the beginning, and you can go over the entire book a few times, you have passively memorized a lot of the information, and you're left with hopefully a smaller contents of information you need to memorize later. Number 2, active to passive studying. It is the opposite of what I just explained. This is the method I chose because I knew this is how I learned best from my previous experiences. So rather than explaining what it is, I'll show you what I did. So after I was done with fellowship, I had a couple of months of break where I was able to dedicate my time to just prepping for the boards. I took about 10 days of vacation time after graduation where I did not participate in any active studying. But one thing I did during this time was to come up with a more detailed study plan for the next 3 months. So I had July, August, September, and my test date was October 1st. Most of July was spent reading chapters in Secrets I have never read before. And to my surprise, I had plenty of chapters I never even skimmed through before. I don't know how that happened. Anyhow, after I was finished reading those untouched chapters of Secrets in early July, I spent the next 6 weeks going over Secrets cover to cover. I call this my first round. I know that sounds crazy slow, but I wanted to build a strong foundation from the get-go. All the little details, facts were reorganized in my own handwritten notes, flashcards, charts, diagrams, etc. I organized them in a big binder and Ziploc bags. As you could see in the picture, those are all my index cards with hard facts. So you can imagine how painful and time-consuming this process was for me. But I knew this was the only way I'd be confident that I was actually learning the material. Once I was done with the first round, I was able to get through the second round faster, and third round even faster, and so on. I utilized the contents from the first few pages of Secrets to guide and plan my studies, but otherwise, I rarely had to reopen Secrets, the actual book of Secrets again after the first round, since my own handwritten notes were organized in such a way that made more sense to me and made repetitive reviews easier and significantly faster. So here are ways I participated in active studying. Using handwritten notes, you could see the binder over there, flashcards, charts, and I utilized Notability app on my iPad, which was super helpful. But I think now they're on the subscription model, which can be more costly. I thankfully made my purchase prior to the change and only had to pay a one-time fee. So if you want to avoid having to pay the subscription for the app, no problem. You can find other ways to engage yourself in active studying. Whiteboards may be one thing you can actually use. I had a couple of giant whiteboards in my room since the time of internal medicine residency, which I loved. It's great for recalling information. Here's a picture of my a part of my whiteboard. I wish I had a picture that showed the entire thing, but I couldn't find an old picture. So to reiterate, if you're one of the lucky people who can just read and absorb information, good for you. If not, give the active studying method that I explained a try and see if that works better for you. Hopefully, you will know which of the two methods works better for you by now. Next, we have ACR Image Bank. I probably overspent my time studying these pictures. I had only one picture from ACR Image Bank on my exam, which was very disappointing. But still, this was a very helpful learning tool. Also, they are easy points on the exam, whether like you just recognize the picture or you don't. I think pathology pictures were the most challenging for me. I just made sure to memorize the kidney path, like the lupus nephritis pictures, and some vessels like GCA pictures, which I heard were high yield. ACR Image Bank is great for late nights when you're feeling really tired or when you're feeling so lazy, but you still want to do something productive. I personally liked using Image Bank after meals when I felt sleepy or unmotivated in order to get me in the study zone. Next, we have care questions. During fellowship, I really disliked doing care questions, but somehow I grew to enjoy doing them for some reason. The key here is to read and review the answer choices and seeing the logic behind why the wrong answers are wrong and why test writers included them as potential answers. Also, key concepts from important trials are introduced here, which I thought was helpful. By the way, in terms of the question stem, some of the test questions are just as long as the care questions, unfortunately. So last but not least, board prep courses. So I went with the UCSF board review. Do you need to pass the exam? No. Did I like it? Yes. Would I do it again? Yes. It was expensive, but I got the training discount, so I paid about $500. The fact that it was over Zoom made things much economical because I didn't have to pay for travel or hotel fees. I also heard great things about the Bring In Review course, but I think that one is a lot more expensive. I think it's over $1,000. I would say, and this is my tip number 4, if you want to get the most out of these review courses, make sure to study on your own prior to the scheduled board review dates, so things are more of a review for you. Then the 3 days of conference will go by much faster and you'll have more enjoyable experience. Also, I put Notability here because I used the app to download the syllabus for the review course, and I was able to write my own notes and look at them later. I'm sure there are other study materials available out there. What I listed here are the materials I personally used to prep for the exam. Please keep in mind, whatever I offered here is not a comprehensive list, and feel free to share in the comment section if there is any other resources you found helpful. So when should one start prepping for the boards? Well, there is no right answer for this one, as we all learn very differently. So I will just share my experience. So what I did was I first started prepping for boards around April of my second year in fellowship. Since I felt tired at the end of most work days, I set a goal to commit to doing 10 care questions per evening. But whenever I was doing these questions, I made sure to learn the answer choices in detail and to look up any additional information needed, and I included them in my notes. First round of care questions took me a long time, and doing even 10 questions took me sometimes like 2 to 3 hours. I was able to go over all the care questions from year 2014 to 2019 twice by the time of graduation, and obviously I was much faster reviewing them the second time around. This was around the beginning of the pandemic, so whenever there was some free time at work due to canceled appointments, I went over ACR image bank quickly and was able to complete one round of images from April to June. I planned out my following week of what images to review, so I did not jump from topic to topic, but had a solid plan of what to review in order to cover all the pictures in a certain given time period. When I was looking at the ACR images, I tried to read the detailed annotations and make my own notes of whatever I thought was important. But in retrospect, that may have been a big waste of time. In summary, I did a very light load studying from April to June before graduation, took a 10-day break, then started studying more intensely in July, or more mid-July. My exam was on October 1st, which gave me full 3 months of study time. I was lucky in a sense because I did not have to work during this time, but one may ideally start studying sooner if they plan on starting working before the exam. No matter when you decide to start studying for boards, you need to have your own timeline in place. I set monthly goals for myself, then divided that up into weekly goals. Tip number 5, I downloaded weekly calendar from the internet, and doing this helped me stay on track. Also, setting realistic daily goals made me feel happy and good and ready to conquer the next day. It's important to have buffer days, I think, once in a while, in case you're behind your schedule. And trust me, you will get behind sometimes because, life happens. Breaks. So for me, Sundays were reserved for rest. It was time to relax and rest my brain, which helped me get back to studying on Monday mornings. And catch-up days, I purposely placed a couple of buffer here and there periodically in my schedule, since I had occasional cheating mornings, afternoons or evenings, etc. But I try not to go entire day without studying, except Sundays. So this wraps up the first part of board prep video. In the next video, I will share tips for the first year fellows, some practical ideas for setting your day-to-day schedule, and how to stay efficient in your last days of studies, including what not to do prior to your exams and a few other suggestions for the actual test date. I'm also very excited to have a chance to discuss about habits to keep us healthy during this stressful time. Please hit the like button and subscribe. I will see you all in the next video. Stay well until then. Bye-bye.